I'm going to go ahead and get started. People might still continue to come in, but we want to make sure we're respectful of the rec center hours, and so that we're out by 8. So we try to start on time so we can finish on time. So I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order, and if you can all stand. Our board member today is going to do the invocation, followed by the pledge.
Father God, in the name of Jesus, we thank you, Lord, for those who are allowed to be here this evening, Lord, and those that are coming. Lord, open our hearts and our minds and our ears that we may hear, Lord, things that we can do in the community and things that are done in the community, Lord. We ask these things in Jesus' name.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Thank you for having a seat. This is our last meeting in 2021. Seems like this year has flown by. Pandemics, vaccines, virtual working, and now I guess we're actually going back out in public, but still masked up. Mine right there. So I thank you so much for coming out, and as a Civic League, of course, we wish you all happy holidays and prosperous New Year's. We go into 2022. We have some speakers on the agenda, but I also always like to recognize anyone here who is in our legislature or a member of our city council, and we have Councilwoman Wooten here, so we definitely recognize her. Thank you for coming out to our meeting tonight. Appreciate you. And we'll start with the Seatack Rec Center. Greg's going to speak, and we're also going to meet the new center manager. Carrie took a position in Norfolk, right? So we always feel sad because we've been fortunate. We've had some great managers here at Seatack, and then we seem to lose them. So, but to better opportunities for them, So I think the one gentleman went on to do Princess Anne, and then of course we lost Ken. He went to Youth Opportunities, and now Carrie has gone on to Norfolk for better opportunities. So I'm going to have Greg come up, and he's going to introduce us to Brandy and then give us an updated report. You all can hear me okay, right? Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I'm Greg Farabee, and this is Mrs. Brandy Gaynor. She is the new facility supervisor here at Seatack. I just have a few announcements to make. I'm not sure our normal participants to the Civic League meetings. I'm sure you've noticed a few things. We've added 2 closets. We removed a smart board that was back here. We're adding another smart board. And then we've also, you guys can't see, but we've cleared out a few walls behind here for storage. And there are also a couple other areas around the facility that we'll be doing, how that'll impact you guys in the annex. We're adding an additional closet beside the Civic League office. So what will happen, we're just moving the entrance door. So rather than the door be on your immediate left, we'll move it around to the front. Yeah, so right when you walk in, you'll be able to enter directly into the Civic League office. And that project will probably take place in the next week or 2. Okay? As far as facility hours, due to the holidays, as a reminder, guys, we are open on Christmas Eve until noon, so facility hours will be from 9 to 12. Christmas Day we're closed. Christmas Eve we're open from 9 to 5. I'm sorry. New Year's Eve.
Okay.
Yeah, 9 to 5. New Year's Day, 9 to 5. Okay, and then of course, both Sundays after the holidays will be open normal hours. So, Brandon, do you have anything?
I just wanted to say hi to everyone. Looking forward to working with you all and being a part of the community in this capacity here as well.
reminder, guys, we do have a blood drive coming up, December 28th. It's from 2 to 6 p.m. It's going to be in the gymnasium. So I know they're still looking for volunteers. So the 28th.
28.
Yep. In the gym from 2 to 6 p.m. And then you can always go to redcross.org to register online, so, or you can call as well.
Do you have, is it a link or anything that I can put on our Facebook page or anything?
Yes, I can send it.
Yeah, send that to me.
Yeah.
Facebook page. We do have some people that are regular donors. You're a regular donor, aren't you, Mr. Otis?
Yeah, well, that's what I thought.
Yeah. I guess we need to make you an appointment, huh? I'll see you at church on Sunday.
I thought about that.
Okay.
Well, I will be there donating as well, so if you can donate, please come out. Any questions, guys? Thank you.
Oh, I did have one thing. I just want to put a bug in your ear. One thing that Ken and I talked about in Southern Carry, I saw this thing on, I don't know, 60 Minutes, one of those shows. Anyway, it was in New Jersey, and they had what they called a community night at the center, and they had they had dinner. Everybody could come, but the thing was you couldn't sit at the table with people you knew. So you had to talk to get to know everybody. So churches were involved, the community was involved, and everybody brought food in, and that kind of thing. We talked about it, but we never, things happen, we just not got forward. But I would like to just keep that in the back of mind. That's something I think that would be really
Yeah, it sounds great. Greg and I will be in touch with you.
Okay.
And work out some of the workers and stuff.
So, and I'll try to find the video that I saw, get an idea. I'll search for it and to get a better idea. We don't have to do it like they did. We can do our own thing. But I just thought it was a great idea.
Yeah, it sounds like a great
Okay.
networking way to get to know each other.
Okay.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Okay. So next we have our Seatack Community Crime Report, and we have someone standing in for Captain McBride.
Unless you want to go first.
I will let you go with the
Okay.
crime report.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jackie Jaluso. Captain McBride has asked me to stand in for him tonight. I don't have a whole lot to report, but he did ask me to put out that it was 2 Fridays ago, he's just come back from some leave, that they had gone out to Loretto Lane, Mr. Tower. They took out housing, zoning, the outreach center, of course, police department representative to help do the outreach piece to that. And they'll be working on getting the cleanup done, pretty soon, here in the near future for that.
Down at the end of Red Line, where the homeless camp is?
Yeah, the homeless
Okay.
population, yep. I'm sure the weather was probably still fairly nice a couple weeks ago. We also are doing a holiday plan patrol in our shopping centers there at Hilltop. All of the Hilltop areas and the surrounding shopping centers, so you should see a increase in patrol vehicles there, hoping to deter any, thefts and any other potential violent crimes there that sometimes we see the uptick in the holiday season. As far as the crime statistics, there really hasn't been any, and I almost hate to say it, any uptick in our general problem areas here in the second. So, and that's pretty much all I have. Anybody have any questions? Okay.
Well, on the holiday plan patrol, I know you said Hilltop, but will someone also be covering our Burnett Shopping Center right here?
They are, the plan patrol is geared towards Hilltop. However, there's a lot of officers that are in this area that also patrol the Atlantis and that area. So they're in there frequently,
Okay.
but it's not
Not right.
technically a park, but you'll see patrols in there as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Friday night back now, but I'm still trying to find time to do it. I think probably most of you are aware we had an important
Mhm.
item on the agenda the last time. And
Do you want to come to the microphone?
I was going to defer to
Oh.
Ms. Wood.
Oh, okay.
For motion and let her report on that. In terms of other matters, in addition to the George Men's issue in terms of how to honor Mr. Men's, we are nearing the end of the year. We have a number of potential acquisitions of important assets for the city that we are considering, and we will probably deal with them in the next week, both meeting tomorrow and perhaps a special meeting after that. Can't really talk about them because we're still negotiating those, but some of them will impact you guys, I hope, in a very favorable way. But I'll leave that opinion to you. You can certainly tell me if it doesn't, but I'm hoping it will be helpful to this community as well as all of the oceanfront area and all the resort area. I don't have anything else I want to talk about. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have or any issue you want me to address. I'll be here till we're done tonight, so if you'd rather catch me after the meeting, you can do that too. I'll be here till we're done. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Councilman?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Look here, if you can remember, a while back, you see you were the case of the planning commission. About the parking there, that Seatack park there, asked you, could you enlarge the parking over there, there's more than enough room in there, and put in more lighting down there. You see you were the case of the planning commission. I haven't seen you or heard from you, seen you and Aaron Rodgers out there. I know it's been close to 2 years.
More lighting in the parking lot. Is that the bottom?
Yeah, because the light that they got is still like the sky. They got something like
Well, some of these things with folks may know more about this than I do, but I've got problems all over my district with lights that are out that aren't the city's responsibility. In fact, the city has
it's a public city park.
what they have. Well, the Dominion controls some of the lights out here. I'm not saying they do on this one, but they do on some issues. It's not, for example, convention center. When I complained about back when we were meeting during the pandemic in the convention center, and I said, look, I got a parking place right next to the door. It's not a problem for me, but these people appear out of a pitch black car coming to these meetings. And I was told, we're working on it, but it's got to have Dominion's cooperation. So that may be the whole thing, but I'll look into it. I'll certainly follow up.
What about the large enough park? Because the owner holds about something like 25 cars. If it holds 25.
Well, that's another issue about how much parking is there. And that I have heard discussions about too, and I'm happy to discuss that with you also. I'll catch you after the meeting. Okay, thank you.
Deacon Ellis, if you check that pole that the light is on, if it has a thing on there that's from Dominion, then they will be responsible for it. So you just need that number or whatever is on there.
Yeah, I know how to do it. There's nothing wrong with the lights work.
It's not enough
But
light.
we need more light.
Okay, so it's not that this light's not working, it needs more light. Gotcha. And this is all on Seatack.
We have a number of parking areas that the lights are not working. They got lights. I think if they were all on, they would be enough, but they're not very well.
Yep. Did you see the agenda, Mr. Jackson? It's on the table where you signed it.
Oh, right there.
Thank you. Councilman Wooten, do you want to speak now? Thank you. Sorry. Good evening. I wanted to come out tonight. Generally, I participated online during the meetings. This is my first in-person meeting for you this year. But I wanted to just take some time and see if there were any questions about the George, the resolution for George Mims to honor him. I know that I can tell you the final resolution or the final act that occurred Tuesday was that the matter be delayed indefinitely, and that's because the request by President Rice, because of some misinformation that may have gone out, and we just wanted to make sure that, before moving forward, we had, the community engaged, wanted to make sure that there was no misinformation before going forward. I can tell you that the history of that resolution stems from a 2019 resolution that was first approved by City Council to honor George Mims. Now that 2019 resolution was just to honor him for the person he was and his service. During that time, the council unanimously approved that measure. However, in 2019, there were some members on council who stated they wanted to do something more meaningful for him. And so fast forward to 2021, I wanted to ensure that that was carried out, that we did follow up as a body and do something more meaningful to honor him. And so between 2019, 2020, I had the opportunity to work with and communicate with President Rice about, first of all, coming to see if that's something that you wanted to do, and to find out what your thoughts were in honoring Mr. Mims. What were your suggestions? What were your thoughts? And in that communication, I learned that there was a vote that was taken, the community was engaged, and I received an email from President Rice that said that you wanted to dedicate Bird Neck Road for Mr. George Mims. And so in preparing the resolution for 2021, I did want to make sure that you all know that I do work with Mr. Tower and Councilmember Rouse, Councilmember Tower, make sure that I engage them about what I was doing, and to make sure that they were aware and to see if they wanted to kind of engage and help along in the process, and just mainly just communicating and keeping them in the loop and, working together on this matter. And so as we kind of fast forward to today, the reason there is a precedent already set to dedicate a street name to a person, and that was Martin Luther King Jr. And so we have that precedent that was already set. And I mentioned that because that was a big issue on council. And I can tell you that there are several members on council who did not support the resolution. And that became known to me a couple of weeks before the item actually went on the December agenda, to which I would make sure I was communicating with the president to let him know, hey, I'm getting some opposition. And mainly, I received a phone call from Vice Mayor Rosemary Wilson, who indicated to me that there was not going to be support amongst the council, and that it was going to fail, to which, I reached out to every council member to make sure and to see what type of feedback that I was receiving. I received an amount of feedback from different members, but I can tell you the strategy that was used by some of my colleagues it was not to get it done. The strategy was more to find ways how not to get it done, which was a bit disturbing for me. And so Tuesday, when we came, and the matter came up on the agenda, read a statement regarding the issue, and just wanted to make sure that I followed the wishes of the community. I can tell you some of the things that I did bring out in this resolution and trying to get it supported was that there is a double standard. Oftentimes when there's a resolution that's brought to council members, I know myself, no one usually asks to have a discussion. No one usually brings up different prerequisites or so to address the issue. They normally just pass it through. So I thought it would be very straightforward and simple with this, but it wasn't. And I got a lot of kickback, pushback from several members. And one thing I would just encourage you is that as members or my colleagues come to the meeting, ask them if they support it. Ask them will they support it. And ask them why and why not. Because you do need to know that. But in closing, what I would say is the matter's been deferred indefinitely. However, we do understand what you would like. I will also say that there were some members who wanted to pretty much provide for you, or for lack of a better word, dictate what they wanted and how they wanted to honor Mr. Mims, which I understand was not acceptable to you as a body. You had and you have the way and the reason that you, and the how that you want to honor Mr. Mims, and I suggest that that's something that you continue to move forward with. I'm open for any feedback that you may have. Certainly you can feel free to reach out to me, email me, Councilmember Tower, Councilmember Rouse, if you have any thoughts about moving forward, but I won't be doing anything until I hear from you. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. I do have some,
If I may, I would just like to add, I don't necessarily agree with everything that Ms. Wooten just said, but that's the nature of what we do. We have disagreements about things. I want you to know that I want the wishes of the Seatack community to be realized, particularly in the Seatack, within the Seatack community. As I told Ms. Wooten, I would have voted for the resolution. I certainly wasn't opposed to it. It was clear that there was not support on council. I'm not blaming anybody for that, but it wasn't there, and it was clear to me it wasn't there, which is why I approached Ms. Wooten, I approached Karen as well. And this is just one of those things that we're going to have to work out. We all have different ways of doing business. I don't do business the same way that people on my left or right do, but I can tell you we're all trying to get to the same place, which is some consensus on what's the right thing to do. I don't believe this represents any signal end of era of council wanting to be supportive of the Seatack community. I mean, if I had to pick one thing just to say, I'd say, yes, there is a precedent. But when you tell me the precedent is Martin Luther King Jr., I say, that's a precedent, but it's a difficult one to have, to follow up on, because what's the third and the fourth if you do second? You can agree or disagree. I respect all of your opinions about it. I just want you to know it's something that I've certainly struggled with about how to deal with it. Don't claim that I've done it all right, but I do want to continue to work with this community, which I respect greatly, to try to find a way. Frankly, look, I'm a politician. I want to get 6 votes for something that you guys want. I don't care how many after that, but I want to get 6 votes, because that's what we need to get some things done. We didn't have 6 votes. That was pretty clear. So I'm ready, willing, and able to do what I can to help try to get to where we can get a majority consensus on council that also, if not pleasing everybody, you're never going to do that, but has a meaningful impact on this community. And I thank all of you who followed this all along and who've got your own lives invested in this. I respect that greatly. If you want to call me anytime, talk more about it, feel free. Thanks.
I just want to follow up on that just a little bit. I think one of the things is that I I understand what you mean when you say, Martin Luther King, that's a high precedent. Vice Mayor Wilson, I'm trying to think of her name, Rosemary Wilson, did call me last week, and we had sort of a discussion. I was pleased with the discussion. I don't think she was pleased with the discussion, but I was pleased with the discussion. And so here's what I will say to that in regards to the honorary, because she did mention that to me as well, about the honorary being Dr. Martin Luther King and how we were one of the last cities to have that as an honorary road. And what I pointed out to her was it was honorary. I'm from Baltimore. We have Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard. That's the name of the street. It's not honorary. I go any major city, it's not honorary. It's the name of the street. Portsmouth's got a Martin Luther King Expressway. It was the Western Branch Expressway. Is it 168? I don't know what the number is. Too many numbers. But it is now called the Martin Luther King Expressway. So for me, that's big. Honorary is like we just want to do a little something over here so we can pass over. But that is my opinion. I'm not showing any shade on the city council. I'm just telling you my opinion, and that's what I said to her. She also brought up to me that the Filipino Community Culture Arts Center wanted to do an honorary something on Baxter Road, and that was also voted down. So my question to her was, did they come to you with the resolution? And she said, yes. I said, that's the difference. We didn't come to the city council with the resolution. The resolution came to us. Well, don't that sound like that old Tell the rock didn't land on us? Anyway, okay, I'm sorry. So that's what I discussed with her. I also got the impression from her that if we want a committee on this issue, we have to form it ourselves. She did make it clear that only 2 members of council can be on our committee, but she did say that if we wanted one to discuss the options, we had to form it ourselves. So that's how we'll probably move forward with it. I'll get, as we get into 2022, we'll talk more about who will be part of that committee and what we need to do to lay the groundwork for moving forward. But I also reminded her that George was adamant that anything that said Seatack needed to remain that way. So the park, the rec, the school, all that's off the table. That won't even be part of the discussion. So we just have to find some other way. And giving us a plaque to put on the wall here is not acceptable because we can do that ourselves. You wouldn't oppose us putting a plaque on the wall, would you, Brandon? See? So we can do that ourselves. We don't need the city council for that. So I just wanted to follow up to kind of let you know what has transpired since I saw both of you on Tuesday night. That she did call me. It was a very nice conversation. I was polite. I was. But I was also very direct and clear about what we wanted. So, Kurt, did you have something you want to say?
I think you sort of answered it. In regards to the indefinite, that's what I was trying to figure out the timeline. Yes, indefinite, but we don't want to wait for, this is something that we need to, as soon as possible, start executing whatever steps are required.
But it's on our timeline now.
Right, but also, if Vice Mayor is saying, get a committee, once we do that, we get the findings of that committee, is the additional support there, and we have to go back again to sell city council.
It's probably not there, so we're gonna have to find out what other things we need to do. Do we need a petition? What else we have to do in the community? Because the problem is that there are some people who are from our community who work in the environment of the political ring who are saying opposite of what we're saying. So they're saying the community doesn't want it. So we might have to show in numbers from surveys or petition that the community does want it so that we can show, we can have proof that this is possible. Angie?
I don't know if anybody else was at that meeting. This has been going on for a good little while. And most of you know, I don't live in Seatack, but I have done a lot of work in Seatack, and I was Georgia's advisor for that whole time, citywide. The issue is, when you look at precedent, what's the name, Mr. Bishop Good?
Oh, yeah, I talked about that too.
Precedent.
Yep.
If you look around this city, there's quite a few names of streets that represent people that were here.
Right.
This precedent thing is not an argument.
Right.
The issue is that the people that were sitting in those seats before were on board. Now we have two appointees, and that's what I'm going to call them, appointees, because nobody elected them in there.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
Okay? That's part of the little group now. We got a little group, and I told them to the face, so I'll say it now.
Mhm.
They need to cut that out. You have a meeting, have a city council meeting with people there to hear
Yeah.
the discussion. And that's part of the issue. The other part of the issue that they shifted said the Councilwoman Wooten didn't have anything to do with it. It initiated from the meeting that the people wanted. So I think if you're going to form a committee, I think the first thing is you need to fill some seats in the city council chambers. Fill those seats and let them know these are people not on a committee, but these are residents of that community.
Yeah, that makes sense. The other thing I will say, this is just an aside from the issue of the honorary resolution. One of the other things I noticed when I was at the meeting, I guess I don't usually sit in the front, so I don't usually notice as much as I did on Tuesday night. When y'all get back there and talk to your colleagues, they need better poker faces when they sit up there.
Yep.
Some of them show faces of, not the two of you, I'm just saying.
Business of advising them how to do their job.
No, I'm not talking about how they do their job. I'm talking about the facial expressions that they have. And I'm not talking about, what's that lady that come and say something about everything? I'm not talking about her, because I probably don't have a poker face when she's talking to. What I'm saying is, I'm talking about just in general, people coming up and talking, and the facial, they're supposed to be impartial. They're supposed to be, this is my opinion, you're representing the entire city. Right now, the way we vote on all of y'all. So when I come to I'll tell you this. At my church, I used to say when the deacons would come up to the altar, when you do the call to come to Christ or whatever, they would come up there and I said, y'all look so mean, who gonna get that like to Christ? Y'all stand there looking mean. Ain't nobody gonna come to you looking like. That's what I'm talking about. When people are coming up to speak at the podium, they're already nervous enough. They got that little light blinking here, blinking on here, and they're trying to get out what they have to say. Okay? And I write everything down. Everybody doesn't do that. But some of the facial expressions were downright insulting. I'm not saying they were downright insulting. And that's an honest, objective criticism that I'm giving. And if you want me to come and say it or send an email to Vice Mayor Wilson, I'll be happy to do so. Total aside from our issue that we're talking about, I just felt like there were some people who came up there who genuinely had heartfelt issues that they wanted to share with the city council. Whether I agree with their issues or not, they still are citizens of the city and should be respected for their opinions. And your facial expressions should show that. That's all I have to say. But I will add a caveat. It was two appointed people that went down. So, anything else for Councilman Tower or Councilwoman Wooten before we move on? Nope. Okay. So we have our guest speaker tonight. And please, Chief, I do not want to mess up your name. I don't know if I said it right on our little calling post, but I said Newdigate? Okay, that's what it says. Phew.
Call me a lot.
So you're welcome to come.
Well, thanks, man.
And we thank you for joining us today.
thank you, everyone. Paul Newdigate, I would say that I am your new police chief, but as of tomorrow, I will have been here 14 months. So I think no longer new. Hopefully, we've had a lot happen over the last 14 months, but hopefully we feel that things are going in the right direction. I can tell you that we have a lot going on in the police department. I know my folks probably wish that we would slow down a little bit, but we were using every opportunity to move forward. When I got here 14 months ago, I found out exactly what we know, is that we have a great city, we have a great police department, we have great men and women serving this organization, but we did have a couple challenges. We find ourselves behind in technology. Compared to other cities in Hampton Roads, I know we're behind. Compared to where I came from, I know we're behind. And if we really want to move forward with 21st century policing, we have to be upgraded with technology. So that was one of the big challenges. And I do have to thank our good council folks here because they have allocated some funding and we're moving forward with great strides. So technology and process are really the two areas that I'm looking at, as well as making sure that we have a well-founded violence reduction strategy. We have done very good work in the years past for our crime numbers, but I want to make sure that we continue to keep Virginia Beach the safest city our size. That data did come out, hopefully everyone saw it, that of all major cities, 300,000 population and higher, Virginia Beach is the safest city of its size, and we want to keep it that way. And I think that is some of the good news that I have today, is as we get towards the end of the year, our crime numbers look really good. We are not suffering some of the same issues that other large cities our size are. If you pay attention to the news, many comparable cities were seeing record highs in homicides and non-fatal shootings. So what you will see at the end of the year when I present crime numbers to council, and probably into January, early February, is that overall we will probably be what we call flat, either an increase or a decrease, but we will have a modest decrease as of right now in both homicides and total shooting victimization. And I think that's something that we all care about as a city. The one area where we continue to struggle, and hopefully everyone can help us, one of the things that really drives our Part 1 numbers, and that's kind of how we get graded against other cities, are definitely the theft from autos and the auto thefts. And a lot of those are easily preventable. I know we push it out there. What we're going to start doing is pushing out some spatial maps with clustering to really show the community where it's occurring so that you can be aware of it. We've got some strategies in place for 2022. We really want to make a dent in those property crimes that drive our overall numbers, and it reflects on the city. How we're doing that is because council has been gracious enough to help us with a number of issues. They did give our officers an 8.5% pay raise, which was very much needed, but we're still about 80 positions short, and we are struggling in a number of areas. Retention was a big one. Since the pay raise, retention has slowed down a little bit. We're not losing officers at the rate that we were, but we are still struggling in some regards, not with just recruiting, but where we're struggling is we had 54 officers start this last academy. We can all agree that that is a good number, and we could really use that shot in the arm for a number of things that we want to do. They haven't graduated, and it's down to 28. So we are losing a lot of the folks that come into the academy. Unfortunately, their mind's not really where we need it to be. They're not sure if they really want to be the police, and it's not just academics, it's not just physical, where they're leaving us. And where I do need the help from this community is we're struggling, no bones about it, we struggle with diversity. We struggle with mirroring the community that we serve. Approximately 19% of Virginia Beach is African American. Our numbers fluctuate between 7 and 9%. So you can see that I need help, and we realize that we need help with increasing the minority representation of this police department. And not just overall, but I also need help in promoted ranks. I need our lieutenants and our captains and chiefs to mirror the community that we serve. So we struggle because we're not getting the number of applicants that we want. I'll be quite frank, even with some of our minority candidates, when they do hit the academy, we are losing them midway. It's not academics, they're doing fine, as well as anyone else. It's not physical, they're doing fine, as well as anyone else. It's peer pressure and community pressure from family, friends, community, about being part of a profession that is, let's say, under the microscope currently. But if you believe that the system needs change, there is no other way to change it except to be part of the system and to bring your voice forward. So I need your help, ladies and gentlemen. I need your help to make sure that BBPD moves forward in a very progressive manner so that we can accomplish all this. So we are struggling, but we acknowledge that that's where we want to go. I think right now the problem is it's hard to concentrate on diversity and minority recruiting and promotion when we're struggling just to get folks in the door that want to be part of this profession. And there's a number of things that we would love to do if we were fully staffed. You know, one of the things when I got here is I took a look at where we are in terms of community engagement. And we do a great job, but we can always do better. And we have a centralized community engagement unit that's set up in a little house by headquarters. And they do great work, they really do. They do our Senior Citizens Police Academy, our Employees Police Academy, our Citizens Police Academy, all things that are very relevant. But where we struggle with that is those are folks that are going to participate in those groups. And we know that they're going to come. They're going to want that interaction with the police. Where we really need to expand our horizons is find a way for the police to get out to the communities and engage and impact those individuals that aren't going to come forward. We really have to get boots on the ground. So we decentralized our community engagement unit. We put a community liaison officer in each of the 4 precincts under the command of that captain. And that captain, like you know, Captain McBride, is really pretty much a mini police chief. He runs that precinct. He does an incredible job handling the myriad of circumstances that I asked him to take care of. But he has one officer right now to be that conduit between all the different communities and him to make sure we address the quality of life issues, the crime issues, everything else that we need to be part of. So I think we can all agree that a singular community liaison officer in these precincts is insufficient. When we get our staffing up, and we will get there, my vision is, one, that we have a community liaison squad in each of the precincts consisting of a sergeant and 4 to 5 officers at minimum to make sure that we're doing that daily community liaison efforts. One of the things that we would also like to do, we know that we have a very robust SRO program. SROs, the program is not about arrest.
So you don't know what the SRO program is?
School Resource Officer Program.
Okay.
So if there's any question, because I know that there's been
Right.
other communities that have struggled about having officers in the schools. We don't have that at the beach because our program is definitely not predicated about arrest. It's about mentorship, guidance, involving ourselves at the lowest level. One of the things that we just signed on, and we just had a meeting with the Commonwealth Attorney, is about moving forward with a restorative justice program for our youth so that some of those lower level offenses don't get them caught up in the criminal justice system and we don't taint them for life and create them undue hardship so that we can work through some of those lower scale. But also, where we're not where we would like to be is we do a great job with the SROs and the leadership and the guidance during the school year. But what happens come June? Our SROs go to different functions that we need them to go to. We know many of our young folks, a lot of the guidance that they may get is going to be from the principals in the school year, and then we leave them to their own devices. What I really would like to do is stand up a full-time youth services unit with a lieutenant, captain, and several officers so that we can work on summertime programming instruction for our youth so that we don't lose that relationship and we can be there for them year-round. So there's a lot of things that we would like to do once we get to full strength. But right now, we do have those challenges. We're relying on the technology that council has allocated some money for to help us move forward. So we know we have the gunshot detection down at the resort area, as well as coverage out in Western Bayside. It's showing us two things. That one, unfortunately, in Western Bayside, we had a lot more gunfire activity occurring than what we know about. I looked at the stats today, and this is citywide, but for every gunshot detection that we have within those two coverage areas, only 21% of them have a companion 911 call. So that means, unfortunately, our folks, our citizens, are living in these communities and they become very conditioned to gunfire because they're not even calling it in. And we knew that this is probably what was going to occur because it's systemic with when you look at it. So what we're doing now, and I think it's going to produce big dividends for us as we move forward, we respond to 100%, not just 21%, but 100% of all gunfire activations within that coverage area. And if no one's home, we leave a door hanger to make sure that they know that we were there, that we responded, and that we do care. Because I think the reception gets out there, you hear gunfire, but the police never show up. The police don't care about our community. They don't care about violence. It's not true, but we're not getting the 911 calls. So we have the gunshot detection. I think it's proving very beneficial for the resort area. What it's doing is we also find a perception issue down there about some of the ongoing violence that occurs, and now it's giving us quantifiable data about what is and what isn't occurring down there. So very, very productive. We just went live with our, what we call NIDA. It's our ballistic trace evidence. So if we do have a violent crime in the beach, and we recover a firearm, we recover shell casings, we can submit it to our own machine now and see if it compares to other crimes or other individuals that have been stopped or arrested. You can see where that would be a great tool for our investigators. We now, hopefully, will get it where we will have results back within about 96 hours versus where we are currently. We have to submit our ballistic trace evidence to the lab over in Norfolk. And many times, and Jackie, probably you know better than I do, we are waiting 6 to 9 months. So if we're going to prioritize our response to violent crime in the beach, we can't wait 6 to 9 months. We have to have timely information. Let me check my notes, make sure I am hitting all the high topics that I thought maybe.
While you're checking in, I have I guess, not really a question, but a remark on the 911 calls for gunfire. I guess because for me, I'm right off of the boulevard, I'm not far from 2nd Precinct. There's fireworks all the time. It's constant. It's not just holiday. So, and if you're, and sometimes my TV's loud because of the airplanes. Sometimes I don't think I would know if it was a gunfire or not, or if I heard it, like, was that TV? Or do you know what I mean? Like, no, listen, I'm from Baltimore. I know when I really hear gunfire. That where it's obvious to me. That's, I guess, what I'm trying to say. But here, I don't think I've ever called 911 once because I thought I heard gunfire, just because of I wasn't sure. Now, I will say there have been times where I was downstairs and I just went upstairs. So I probably should have called 911 in that instant because I was probably pretty sure that's what I heard. So I'm wondering if they're just like me.
And I think a lot of people are. I think there's a couple reasons. One, because it occurs frequently, and maybe there's that distinction that we don't really know what it is. And then two, I think there is a perception out there, why should I bother to call change with 100% response. What we ask is, if you think it's possibly gunfire, call it in. Let us respond and make sure that it's not something much more significant than what it is.
I have such annoying neighbors. I be calling y'all all the time. I call a lot as it is. Don't mess with me.
So is fireworks, is that legal to fireworks as much as, because I've been a lot in my area.
I'm sure we have ordinances against fireworks, but what's allowed in most jurisdictions, it's sprinklers and small things, but unfortunately, we have individuals that like to avail themselves of much more powerful, and, we try to intervene, and I think, 4th of July, it's just the volume, sheer volume makes it difficult.
No, they do it every night, that week. Every night. But that was a big issue.
Yeah, I didn't know,
Yeah.
at one other thing, when it's more specialist off.
As they do.
Okay.
And then I think the other big one, we've talked about technology quite a bit, body cams. When 14 months ago, body cams were only given to the line officers, just the patrol officers answering the calls for service. So we were able to make some tweaks, and now everyone on the department, from myself on down, has a body cam that we can wear when we're out in an operational assignment. Another thing that we're adding is all of our marked cars are also getting additional cameras. So not only will the officers have them when they're operational, but our cars will have them. Because we do get, we get complaints about the traffic stops and, the disparity in our actions for the traffic stops. Now we're going to have them in the vehicles as well, which will allow us to look at the video and make some conclusions, not just on he said, she said accusations. So right now I think we have about 40 cars that are upfitted, and we're waiting on the additional cameras to come in, and then hopefully by end of first quarter, let's say in the second quarter probably, we will have all marked cars equipped. I think one of the areas where we're struggling, we know that there are supply chain issues, so a lot of the equipment that we are trying to get in to move forward, we're probably sitting on a ship off of Long Beach somewhere, and it's impacting our ability to get them out there in a timely fashion.
So with the body cameras, I think for us, it wasn't so much the issue of you all have them, it was the issue of when did they get turned on.
Right. And, we made some changes, is what we wanted to do is try to take, because it requires a human action. You have the body camera on, and you have to remember to hit that button to activate the body camera. So one of the things where we've changed to try to make it much more intuitive to activate it is instead of waiting towards the end of our academy, and then we give them and they only get 3 or 4 weeks exposure before we put them out on the streets, we've tweaked it now. They get them first week, second week, when they get all their equipment. And now they go through all their scenario-based training in the whole academy with it issued to them, so it becomes much more intuitive in activating the camera. So we've also changed where it used to be we would show up on a radio run and then activate it. But if you show up on a radio run, things are already going south, and you've got a million things to consider, you may forget to turn that body camera on. So what we've asked officers to change policy now is when they receive the radio run to start responding, they go ahead and activate it. So what we're seeing is a whole lot of video of officers driving and steering wheels, but it's one less thing that they have to worry about when they get there. And then our camera provider, Axon, changed their software. So I think cameras are always on, but I think there's some confusion. They're not always recording for a number of reasons. So because they're always on, when we activate them, they used to have a 30-second buffer that they would go back and capture the preceding 30 seconds worth of recordings. So in case we missed something, hopefully we would capture that. They changed it and moved that back to a full 2-minute buffer. So we have availed ourselves and made that change in our process. So now it goes back a full 2 minutes. So those are some of the things that we're trying to do. I think everybody knows about the signal sidearm issue, that there was a Bluetooth piece that would affix to our holsters. If the firearm is drawn, it would automatically activate the camera. Unfortunately, we have to remember technology, and technology is not always proven. So when we said a couple years back that we were going into this technology, it was never perfected. It was never perfected with the holsters that we had. So we were able to obtain new holsters that worked with the technology. And then unfortunately we had an incident in Centera where a homicide suspect attempted to disarm one of our officers, ended up struggling over the firearm.
Virginia's General.
Yes,
I work
actually.
at Centera, sorry.
Very, very scary, very traumatic for a number. Actually was able to get the gun partially out of the holster and discharge it. Luckily the officer was not hit because it traveled down the side of his leg. And what we found out after that is the holsters that we were using had a serious design defect that would allow someone to pretty much rip the gun out of the holster. So we had to immediately take all those out off the street, go back to our previous holster that we know is safe, but it's not compatible with the Bluetooth technology. So we are still working with the vendor to see if there is a solution in the future. But we got to remember, please, technology is just that, it's technology. And we're talking about a Bluetooth signal, and how many of us, how many times do we get in our vehicle, and we've got our phones, and I'm thinking I'm going to take that call, or I'm going to make that call from hands-free like we're supposed to, and it's not working, and we have to, go in and pair the device again because it is a Bluetooth signal. So please just remember that technology is not infallible. As much as we try to rely on it for some of these circumstances, there could always be challenges in the future. Yes. Questions?
I'm curious because they had an incident where the officer used a gun instead of a taser. Do you all carry those, the tasers?
We do. Officers carry tasers. They also carry pepper spray. Tasers are a great tool. One of the things is we definitely want to use the tasers for de-escalation. So, talking about technology, we have bought a new simulator that we're starting to send our officers through that really allows them to go through that decision-making model. We put them in a number of scenarios, and especially our recruits. We want to put them through these stressful scenarios and then, evaluate their performance and maybe make suggestions and identify training gaps and issues before they get out on the street. We want to bring our active officers back, send them through the same thing. And, one where we're finding some very beneficial is to bring the community in and let the community go through some of that same decision-making scenarios. So it gives you just a little bit of a different perspective. So I will offer that to anybody in the room that would like to come in, Andrew, Carl, anybody here that would like to come in and avail themselves of what we call our Milo system. And as we move forward, that's one of the things that I'm always going to be looking to find funding for. This was a grant-funded opportunity, is to buy the things like that into virtual reality so that we can continually work on and reemphasize de-escalation. And we talk about de-escalation, and it is kind of that buzzword, but really what it is, it's distance, it's cover. If you have distance or cover, that gives us time. And if we have time, then we can try to communicate. And I just have to, remember, de-escalation, it's a two-way street. We have to have some feedback on the other end. It can't just be the police talking. We've got to try to get to that point that we allow some time. Time allows us to communicate and allows us to look at the less lethal tools. We had a very successful, I think it was, fortunately, a lot of things happened around the hospital. A young man fled from the hospital, and Jackie knows about this one, just a couple weeks ago. They encountered him outside. He ended up picking up like a makeshift machete. I don't know where he acquired it, but it looks like a machete. The officers responded. They did an outstanding job of slowing it down, taking distance behind the car, trying to get some communication. And when he kept yelling, "You're going to have to shoot me, you're going to have to kill me," they deployed a less lethal sage round, which took the wind out of him. He dropped what he had. We were able to go up and take him into custody. So those are the type of things, and talk about recognizing de-escalation. one of the things that we did is when I saw the body-worn camera video, I said, these are the type of things that we need to recognize our officers for when they're doing exactly what we asked them to do. So we brought 7 of them in. I think at my command staff meeting today, we talked through the circumstances and awarded each one of them a Chief's Challenge coin for engaging in de-escalation, slowing it down, utilizing the tools, and not going right to lethal force.
Did they answer your question?
That answers my question.
Andrew?
Yeah, and I'm not sure, when you referenced the taser, all that I know of, the taser is never on the same side as your handgun.
Should be.
Should be.
Should be.
And if you have a, and I guess she might be referring to the news of
Minneapolis?
Yeah.
Yes.
All that I've seen is a different color.
Yeah, ours, Jackie, I don't know if you
Yeah.
ever take
I don't have one, they are yellow.
Most of them are yellow, and
Yes.
so having fired a handgun, you don't fire a handgun like this. You're looking at what's in your hand. So I don't understand how you don't see, especially if you got 26 years doing this.
Yeah, I know that it's not the first time that it's happened. We want to take every step to make sure it doesn't happen here. That's one of the reasons that we mark all of our less lethal yellow. So anything that is a non-lethal firearm, or tasers, or sages, or foam batons, all marked yellow.
It's just plain weight.
Well, yes, there's a distinct weight difference, absolutely.
The other question I have, is the cadet program
Yes.
not working? You didn't mention that.
Thank you. Our cadet program, it's something that the department has been working on for several years, and our gracious council funded 20 part-time positions, which will allow us to hire 20 individuals focusing on that age range of 18 and 19 and 20, when they graduate from high school, so that we can try to keep our arms around them, keep them on the straight and narrow path. And I do make a joke that, what we don't want to do is, you're a young person, 18 or 19, you graduate from school, and sometimes we make poor lifestyle decisions that would prevent you from going into the academy, or even worse, you get hired by the fire department. We don't want to lose our young men and women to the fire department. We want our quality men to come out and serve the community in blue. So the cadet program just went online. Our first round of applicants, we hired 7 individuals. And we have 7 right now, so we are working out the kinks of that program to make sure it's beneficial for our youth that are availing themselves of that program, to make sure that the whole goal is to have 20 at all times. And what we do is use that program to really develop our own farm team. So from the minute they graduate, if they show an interest, we can pay them for up to 28 hours per week at $15 an hour. I mean, I think it's a pretty, yeah, I think it's $15 an hour, Andrew, and that we can allow them to make sure that they are a good fit for us, and we're a good fit for where they want to be, and they can be in that program. The only stipulation is they have to apply and be accepted to the first available cadet class that they're eligible for. So that is running. We have 7 in it right now. We're getting ready. So please, I will forward the information. And I know that I will forward it again. Please push it out to the community, because there is one of the goals of that cadet program was to help us overcome the diversity issues that we have. Is that we want a very diverse group of cadets. And I spoke to not Dr. Spence, but his number 2 the other day, and something that we would like to look at once we work out all the kinks of the cadet program is to establish a public safety cadet program in the schools, so that the men and women, while they're still in high school, if they avail themselves of that public service, they go through, they graduate from that public safety academy, and then maybe we reward them with some additional points on the test so that we can get them hired. bringing in the right folks that will be a good fit for the PD in this community. So cadet program's up and running. The vision is, within the next year or two, hopefully we can work with the schools and develop this public safety cadet program. And I'm sure at some point we'll be having those conversations with council as we try to figure out how we would like to bring that to fruition in the future.
Have you considered talking to Dr. Parrott over at, she does the equity
We've already had some conversations
with her? She's very good. The teach. And then the scouts, Tidewater Boy Scouts and the Girl Scout Council, because I do know that the Girl Scouts actually do a fire, I know you said the fire department, we don't go there, but they do a whole camp, called Camp Fury, I think. I mean, they gave it a cool name and everything, and so they have these girls, they go through this program for a week, like as Girl Scout summer camp, but the whole part of it is they're getting information and finding out about, wait, wow, this could be a career for me to do. I'm just putting idea.
There's a lot of opportunity.
The scouts are.
There's one, the scouts, we would like to reinvigorate our Explorer program. It seems that it's kind of fallen off the last couple of years. There's probably an opportunity for us to also look at that as a youth engagement opportunity.
Maybe combine the Boy Scouts has a program called Venture Scouts, which has girls and boys. Well, they have girls now anyway, but 14 and up, they've always had that. It's called Venture Scouts. And girls did it because they did a little bit more stuff than regular Girl Scouts did, or repellents. Only other thing I was hoping he was going to cover was the thing I keep getting emails from Pastor Knight. I was hoping he was going to be here. Yeah, is it Oversight Committee or the thing that y'all are working on?
We have partnered with the Community Relations section for the Department of Justice to come in and really just take a look at where we are in regards to our community relations, our partnerships. So, I don't want any people think you're DOJ, you're criminal enforcement, that this is actually under the umbrella of the Community Relations section. So we are partnering out in Western Bayside with Dr. Knight, hopefully Dr. Allen, and a few of them to really help us try to move forward with a community partnership to address some of the challenges in Western Bayside and really kind of just establish a good model for working with the various communities and the VBPD. So I think it's for code and some other things, there is going to be a big meeting coming up. I think it's going to push back to March.
I think one of the things, and I'm sure it's not, I grew up in a huge housing project. Okay. And you have to understand the feelings of the residents there. You're saying if there's gunshots and you're not getting a report, if the old lady that lives in this house here is looking at those people every day, she's not picking up the phone. And at least she hopes that if she does, nobody knows about it, because they're going to suffer the wrath of that. So there's a whole mindset there that people may not understand. It's not that people don't feel unsafe or they don't care if anybody shoots up the place. That has nothing to do with it. It has to do with, am I going to survive what's going on in this community? Because I can't go anywhere else.
And that is the nice piece about the detection, is it doesn't rely on someone who may be afraid to call. It's going to alert us to it. And right now, our average response time is a little bit under 5 minutes for us to receive a call.
Out of the third precinct.
And get there, yes.
So are you saying that if I hear gunshots and I call, would you come to my house?
No. Well, what I would want you to do is if you don't want us to come to your house, that you make that clear to the 911 operator. Because the last thing that we want to do is put someone in danger. That someone calls and they're trusting the police and they want to give us information. And the last thing I
automatically. When you come to the airport, because you made the call.
If you call, please make sure that that is put in the notes so that we can respect your wishes and not show up on your door. You know, maybe there's an opportunity that we can talk offline later if really need be. But
I've had them ask me. They ask, do you want the officer to come to your door? And I said, no, I just want the noise to stop. And they don't come to my door. They've asked.
And you can ask to be anonymous too, they won't put any information in that.
So unless there's any important questions, I'm going to leave because we do have a homicide that just occurred a little bit ago, unfortunately in the 3rd precinct. And I'm going to go see with that unfortunate set of circumstances.
Anybody have any additional questions for the police chief?
I thank you for inviting me. I apologize for taking me this long to get here. I do not want to be the last time that I come to the Seatack community forum, so please invite me back. I'm more than happy to have you come to headquarters. Without the engagement, without the community, we are not going to move forward as an organization, so we can't do it without you. So please invite me back, or make sure that it's not the last time I come speak. Thank you all.
So we're gonna zip through this last little part because I promised them we'll be done by 8. I've already kind of did my little piece I wanted to talk about with the resolution as far as the president's report. We do have a member engagement survey. It is on our Facebook page, but the email address is, the link is listed right here on the agenda. If you didn't get agenda, they're on the table. This survey is for you to tell us what you liked about this year, what you didn't like, what things you want to see different, if you attended meetings online or in person, and what kind of meetings you want, like who do you want to come and speak to you? What information do you want to know about? All of that is on the survey, and it's on our Facebook page, it's on our website, and the website is right there. It says member engagement survey. You just click on that page, it takes you right to the link, and you just do the survey. It's 10 questions. It'll take you less than a minute and a half, unless you had a lot to say. Actually, some of the comment boxes won't let you say a whole lot. So, so it won't take you long at all. Tamika had to work tonight, so she's not here to talk about membership. However, we do have applications here if you've not renewed your membership for next year. Remember, our rate has increased, $15. We gave people opportunities since August to join and cover all of next year. So if you haven't already renewed, we have the form here, and you can renew by Cash App, so you don't have to have money, you don't have to give us a check, we can do Cash App. We also have a Square, we also have PayPal. Any way you want to pay us, we can take it. So we have that, the $15, we run out of time, but so if there are any other church or community announcements that we need to make, or any discussions from the floor.
Hey.
Okay. But we have, by 8.
All right, don't take long time. Good evening, Seatack family. My name is Carl Wright. I'm a past president for Virginia Beach NAACP. I'm also a member of Virginia Beach APAC with the gold ballots you guys see. I came tonight. I haven't been to Seatack in a while. But I came here tonight because something happened at the last city council meeting that disturbed me. And I want to say this because I've been in this fight a long time. You guys lost a champion with George Means. George and I had our differences. One thing we loved was our folk. And that's one thing I love about George. When it came to his people, George was a bulldog. And I had our different ways of doing things, but we both loved our folk. I grew up, she said she grew up in Baltimore. I grew up in Norfolk, County Scottsburg. So I'm familiar with how things run. Come up under Paul Riddick's district. So I understand how things run. But I also understand protocol and respect. And one thing we were taught, may have some differences. And if Paul was here tonight, him, Ken Alexander would tell you, if we have some differences, we discuss them in the house. We don't get out in front of the public and try to publicly embarrass folks who try to help us. And George used to say, as he had a way of saying things, he said, Brother Wright, when someone does something for you, my mother taught me to always say, thank you. What I witnessed last night, and your representation from City Council on one of our City Council persons that's a great person. Believe me, I've been going down to City Council a long time, 20-some years of my life as activism in Virginia Beach. And I'm telling you, some of the tales I was told about Virginia Beach when I was coming up, they asked me, why are you in Virginia Beach? You know, Virginia Beach ain't for us. You can't get nothing down in Virginia Beach, believe me. And with the way I see the City Council now, I want you all to understand something. It looks totally different than it did when I used to go down there. And when George is the reason I started going. Because I would watch George, and he would be down there battling by himself. And they would be treating George just like, but they respected him because he stood on his principle. The other night, there was something that came up about a street to be named in reference to George Means. Now, I came out because I got the email, and I really respect one of our council persons because she's always carrying the water for the community. I mean, she's there when sometimes she's by herself carrying the water for our community, particularly the young folk. And the other night when this came up, I said, well, let me go down because I knew George and I thought it was a real honorable thing to do. But when your spokesperson came up and spoke as if you all wasn't supporting this effort or the person that was carrying the message, it was an insult to me. Now, I might have saw it wrong. That's why I'm here tonight. Maybe they can explain it. I see your council person here right now. But I can tell you, he's the first one. I've been to a lot of Seatack meetings. I remember John Yarn, I remember Matt Ice, and I remember what they told me when it came to these black folks in Seatack. Some of them asked me, where is Seatack? And the other ones would tell me, I said, man, why y'all ain't Seatack? Man, them folks don't vote. I ain't got nothing like this is what they told me. Okay, see, I'm not gonna come here and sugarcoat nothing for you. George was here, you take the same thing. Okay? I'm the one that go down there, and I'm continue to go down there because I was raised there. When it came up about George Means Street, to me, this lady that brought it forward, she doesn't even live in your district. I understand politics. She didn't even have to do that. She did that because she felt it was the right thing to do. And for someone to come down there and make the statements that they made before City Council to embarrass this lady and make her feel as though she shouldn't have spoke on behalf of George. She knew George. She was doing what she thought was the right thing to present that to City Council. And I'm telling you, I sat in my seat and I wanted to come behind and say something, but I'm going to be honest with you all, I felt I had to take my home training and say, Carl, stay where you are. Go to before your folk and speak to them. Don't go there and embarrass her and yourself in front of the folk. Because I've been down there with her. And I can tell you, you got some good folk down there, but you got some others don't give a damn about Seatack.
Well,
Listen, let me say this. They don't give a damn about Seatack. So what I'm saying, anytime, anyone that look like you is willing to speak on your behalf in this city, appreciate it and say thank you. Particularly in the words of Mr. George Means. Thank you all. Have a nice day.
okay, so I wish you were here earlier. 'Cause then you
I don't have a
would-
justification, sister.
No, I know, I wish you were here earlier because then you would have heard everything. And I guess what you didn't know is that I was in contact with this group through the whole thing. We had been talking about it. The decision to defer was already discussed before I even came down to speak. That was already discussed, not just with her, but also with Councilman Tower, also with Councilman Rouse. Okay, if any way, Ms. Wooten, what I said felt like an embarrassment, that I would stop being appreciative of you, that was not my intent, and that's not what I thought I did. What I was trying to
to do was make sure we kept it on the table so we could continue to discuss it without having a vote that closed it down, because that's what would happen. We already had one person who made a motion to completely remove it from the agenda. The idea was we knew we didn't have the votes, and we were trying to preserve the resolution to fight another day. And that's what George taught me to do. So that's what I was trying to do. So if in some way you felt offended by what I said, I'm sorry, but I had to do what I thought was best for my community. I talked to my board about it. They all knew what we were discussing. We had talked to, we put out a message on our calling post to our entire community prior to me going down to there. So I even had a board member that was on the line that called in support of our efforts. I had a conversation with Andrew that night because I hadn't talked to him before, so he knew we were all on the same page. We do love what George did for us, and that's one of the things I said in my comments, was that he was a bulldog for us, and he was willing to get in the fight to do what it took for our community, and we know that. What we're saying is, we don't want it to be brushed aside, and we didn't want it to fade. That was the bottom line. We wanted to keep it so that it's on the table. And right now, it's still on the table because it was deferred indefinitely. So I know we have to close, so is it okay if I just go ahead and do the benediction? Okay, so if we can stand, we're going to do the benediction because I promise that the rec center will be out of time. If all lines are clear. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to once again meet together and discuss community issues, bring forth information for our community, and we ask you to continue to keep us and bless us and have all safe travels home. In Jesus' name, amen.